Hello and welcome to another episode of Math with Dr. War. We're still continuing the basic skills series. We're on our final operation, division of decimals. Now when you're dividing decimals, there are two scenarios. When your divisor is a whole number and when your divisor is a decimal. Now when your divisor is a whole number, I like this scenario the best. All you're going to do is divide as if they were whole numbers, and then your final step is to bring up the decimal point from the dividend into your quotient in the same position. So let's try some examples. So the first one is 13.5 divided by 6. So I'm going to set up my division. The 6 is my divisor and my 13.5 is my dividend. So I'm going to divide as if this was whole numbers, like 135. And I always tell students, when you're dividing, go one digit at a time. So 6 goes into 1 0 times. I'm going to put the 0 just for emphasis. Now the 1 is going to merge with the 3 and make 13. So 6 goes into 13 2 times. Now I'm going to take my 2 and times by the 6, which gives me 12. My second step, I'm going to subtract. When I subtract, I get 1. And my last step is I'm going to bring down the 5. So there are only 4 things you have to do. You first divide, then you multiply, then you subtract, and finally you bring down. In my class, I call it the family. Why? Because I tell my students D stands for daddy, M stands for mommy, S stands for sister, and B for brother. So it's the family. And when we divide, we say daddy, mommy, sister, brother. Isn't that cute? So we're going to start this all over again. So here comes daddy. 6 goes into 15 2 times. Now I'm going to put the 2 over here under the 5. Here comes mommy. 2 times 6 is 12. Here comes sister. I'm going to subtract, which gives me 3. Now in decimals, you can't have any remainders. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a 0 and we're going to bring it down. And now I have 30. And now we're going to start all over again. 6 goes into 30. So there's daddy. 6 into 30. That is 5. Here comes mommy. 5 times 6 is 30. Here comes sister. When I subtract, I get 0. And it terminated. So we don't need brother because we got a 0. Now, final step is we're going to bring that decimal point. So notice it's here. It's going to just come all the way up right there in the middle, and there's your answer, 2.25. Now you can always check your answer, and to do that you're going to take your quotient, which is 2.25, multiply it by your divisor, and we're going to see if we get our dividend. 6 times 5 is 30, carry my 3. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15, put the 5, carry the 1. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. How many decimal places do we have? Simply 2. And remember, this 0 is not necessary, so my answer is 13.5, which is the same as my dividend, so my answer is correct. Okay, let's try this again. So I have 25, and I'm dividing 1.75. So I'm going to divide as if these were whole numbers. So I know 25 is not going to divide the 1. So that's going to be 0. I'm going to merge the 1 and the 7. Now I have 17. 25 goes into 17 0 times. Now I want to merge the 1, the 7, and the 5. And I have 175. And 25 goes into 175 7 times. 7 times 25 is 175. And when I subtract, I get 0. And remember our decimal point, it was right here. So it just comes up in the middle. And we're finished. My answer, 0.07. Now let's look at the scenario when your divisor is a decimal. I have 0.8 and I'm dividing 4.46. Now the rule states that whenever your divisor is a decimal, you can't divide. Your first step is to make your divisor a whole number. And to do that, we have to move our decimal point in the divisor to the right to make it a whole number. So in this case, I just need to move it one place. Now we have to move the decimal point in the dividend the same amount of places we did in our divisor, which is 1 place. Now we've changed our number. So now my divisor is 8 and my dividend is now 44.6. And this is just like the scenario we had before. So I'm going to divide as if these were whole numbers. So 8 goes into 4 0 times. Now the 4 is going to merge with the 4 and make 44. 8 goes into 44 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. I subtract, I get 4, and I bring down my 6. Starts all over again. 8 goes into 46 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. When I subtract, I get 6. But remember, we can't have any remainders. So I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to divide. 8 goes into 60. That would be 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. When I subtract, I get 4. No remainder, so I'm going to have to add a 0 and bring it down. Then 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. And when I subtract, yes, I'm running out of space, I get 0. So here are my numbers for my quotient, which is 0.5575. So remember, here's my decimal point. So it's going to come directly right here in the middle. And there's my answer, 5.575. And I'm finished. 0.36, hopefully I have room. And I have 1.6992. So we can't divide as is. I need to make the 0.36 a whole number. So I'm going to move my decimal point to the right. I have to move it 2 places, which means in my dividend, I'm moving it 2 places. So my problem has changed. So my problem now is 36. And my dividend is 169.92. And I'm going to start my division. Now, since this is a 2-digit, I'm going to look at the first 2 digits. So 36 cannot go into 16, so that will be 0. Or if you want to start from the first number, you can. 36 can't go into 1, 0. 36 into 16, 0. 36 into 169, and you're going to have to guesstimate. I think that's 4. Let's put my 4. I'm going to go at the side. 36 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So I get 144. And you can check, this is 4 times. Now, if I want to do 5 times, I'm not going to multiply by 5. I'm just going to add an additional 36 to that. So that's 10, 7, 8. I got 180. So 5 is too big. 4 is the correct number. I'm going to subtract, which gives me 5 and 2. My next step is to bring down the 9, and it starts all over again. So 36 goes into 259. Now, here was 5, which was 180. So I'm going to try 7. So 36 times 7. 7 times 6 is 42. And 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 4 is 25. So that's 252. Yep, that's very nice. So I'm going to put my 7. Here's my 252. Okay, I'm going to subtract and I get 7. I'm going to bring down my final digit, which is the 2. And I know 36 goes into 72 2 times. And 2 times 36 is 72. And when I subtract, I get 0. And just as before, we're going to bring up that decimal point all the way up. And there's my answer. Remember, these zeros are not significant. So my answer is simply just 4.72. And we're finished. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck in your examination.